This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings everyone and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. A hostage deal has been reached in the Middle East, so we are being told. Will it last? Will it bring peace to the Middle East? I'd like to take a few moments to just introduce to you what we know are the different aspects, elements of that deal. I'd like to start with an article by JTA dated January 15. It says, Israel and Hamas have reportedly agreed to a deal that will cease more than a year of fighting in Gaza and Israel, bring dozens of Israeli hostages home, and release hundreds, better put thousands, of Palestinian security prisoners. The agreement was reportedly confirmed by multiple parties to the negotiation on Wednesday. If it holds, it will mark an end to the longest and bloodiest war in Israel's history that has killed tens of thousands, transformed the Middle East, sparked a global spike in anti-Semitism, and consumed the world's attention and activism. Now, the eyes of the world will continue to be on Israel and Gaza to see if the sides honor the terms of the agreement. Under the reported terms of the deal, its first ceasefire phase will last 42 days and will see the Israeli military withdraw from portions of Gaza as Hamas releases 33 hostages in exchange for a much larger number of Palestinian prisoners convicted of terrorism by Israel. Hamas is reportedly set to release a number of civilian women hostages first. They would be followed by the two remaining child hostages who have become a symbol of the captives' plight. Hamas said the children had been killed early in the war, but Israel has not confirmed that allegation. The release of women, soldiers, and older men over 50 and aiding hostages would follow. Negotiations on implementing the second phase will begin by the 16th day of Phase 1 and would see a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. But then there is still going to be a third phase. And the Allgemeine wrote on January 15, the third phase is expected to address the return of all remaining dead bodies and the start of Gaza's reconstruction supervised by Egypt, Qatar, and the United Nations. If all goes smoothly, the Palestinians, Arab states, and Israel still must agree on a vision for post-war Gaza, a formidable challenge involving security guarantees for Israel and billions of dollars in investment for rebuilding. One unanswered question is, who will run Gaza after the war? Israel has rejected any involvement by Hamas, which had ruled Gaza since 2007, but it has been almost equally opposed to rule by the Palestinian Authority that has limited governing power in the West Bank. Now let's listen to an article by the New York Post, dated January 15. The breakthrough deal is the first of its kind in more than a year. It will create a 42-day ceasefire in the Palestinian territory. The pause in fighting will allow Israel and the terror group Hamas to negotiate the terms to release the 97 hostages remaining in Gaza. Only 60 hostages are believed to be alive, including 3 Americans and several Germans, among others. The first day of the ceasefire, which supposedly is going to be on Sunday, if everything goes as planned, that's expected to see the freedom of 3 hostages as a sign of goodwill and compliance. A sign of goodwill and compliance of Hamas, a terrorist group of murderers, mass murderers, who are totally responsible for the mess we are in right now. It goes on to say, after that, another 4 hostages will be released on the 7th day of the ceasefire, with further releases happening every week, as agreed to by both parties. Should the first phase be completed, Hamas and Israel will continue the ceasefire to negotiate the terms to release all the remaining living hostages in exchange for Israel's complete withdrawal from Gaza. The terms of the second phase remain the most contentious, as Israel has repeatedly said. It would not leave the Gaza Strip until Hamas is completely eradicated. The terror group has said it would not release every hostage until it sees proof that Israel is out of all sectors of the Palestinian territory. Should Israel and Hamas reach an agreement on the second phase, the war will end with the bodies of the remaining hostages returned in exchange for a 3 to 5 year reconstruction plan to rebuild Gaza. The reconstruction would be carried out under international supervision, with the future governance of Gaza still in the air, as Israel maintains that Hamas can no longer be the de facto leader of the territory. Now, the Jerusalem Post wrote on January 14, and they are beginning to put their finger on the wound, on what is really important to consider. They wrote on January 14, Israel's agreement to the emerging hostage deal marks a triumph of the heart over the head. Leading with the heart means placing empathy, intuition, and moral values at the forefront. Those who have been pushing with full force for a hostage deal have indeed emphasized empathy. Saving the lives of the hostages and reuniting them with their families is seen as an expression of solidarity and mutual responsibility. And who can be opposed to the concept that the hostages should be freed and be brought back to freedom and to their families? But you see, that is not the issue. The issue is that we are talking about a deal which was made with the devil, if you please. The article goes on to say, by contrast, leading with the head prioritizes logic, reason, strategy, long-term consequences over emotions. Those opposed to the deal are not cold individuals with hearts of stone. Rather, they are looking beyond the now and the individual and are judging the agreement based on whether it is good in the long run and for the collective. First, the deal will incentivize hostage taking. Second, releasing thousands of Hamas terrorists, hundreds with blood on their hands, will inevitably lead to more terrorism. The final concern is that Hamas remains standing. It still retains control of Gaza's civilian infrastructure and is left in place under the agreement. It is only a matter of time before the terrorist organization regroups and rearms. The joy of seeing hostages reunited with their families will be profound, but the strategic ramifications will echo far beyond this moment. The national sense of relief if and when the agreement is finalized will be real and palpable, but the true cost of that movement and that moment may only be fully recognized many years from now. And I would dare to say not many years from now. Maybe just in a very short time. Israel Hayom wrote on January 15. And they wrote an article with a headline, Why is Trump pushing Israel toward a bad deal? It says, according to senior Israeli officials, Trump's rigid expectation for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to finalize the deal before his presidential inauguration is what compelled Netanyahu to accept the current framework. Hamas, despite suffering substantial losses, stands to receive at least 1,000 new operatives directly from Israeli prisons. This influx of new blood is likely to reignite violence within Gaza and potentially beyond its borders. Israel is repeating a historically proven mistake, as mass releases of prisoners have consistently triggered waves of renewed terror. The newly freed operatives are expected to quickly integrate into Hamas' extensive network across Judea and Samaria, Gaza, Qatar, Turkey, from where they will likely orchestrate new attacks. This scenario is comparable to the United States allowing Guantanamo detainees to disperse along its borders with Canada and Mexico a year after 9/11, or permitting them to join Taliban forces against US troops in Afghanistan, a notion that defies strategic logic. Furthermore, the Hamas deal encompasses a substantial increase in the flow of goods and fuel into Gaza, bolstering the group's military and economic capabilities. Paradoxically, it is now Trump who is pressuring Netanyahu to accept a framework designed in May 2024 under the Biden administration. Now, Biden was not willing to give any credit to Trump. He was being asked, well, do you think that Trump is also somewhat responsible for that deal? And Biden answered the reporter, are you joking? But if it is in fact a deal accepting a framework designed in May 2024 under the Biden administration, all kinds of red flags should go up. What we have heard so far leads us to the following conclusion to begin with. It's very unclear whether this deal will have stability because there are so many things which still have to be negotiated. But then, of course, Hamas might very well be willing to, at a first, accept this because they want to get their prisoners back, thousands of them, so they can use them again in further terrorist attacks. But you see, my friends, ultimately, Israel will be the loser. They definitely will be the loser because the Bible tells you that they will lose in all of this. In the book of Hosea, in chapter 5, beginning with verse 13, we are told that Israel will receive a wound, which is presumably a defeat in war. And it will try to obtain help from a coming mighty political and military leader. But it will not receive that help. And it will ultimately be forsaken by everyone. And it will be standing all alone. We have prepared a free booklet, the book of Zechariah, Prophecies for Today, which goes into the future of Israel. And please stay tuned for a video talking more about this booklet. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
You may be surprised to learn that the ancient book of Zechariah was written for our time. How important is this Old Testament book for our immediate future? What do all the visions and prophecies in this book want to tell us? For example, will there be a third temple in Jerusalem before the return of Christ? Times are getting worse for this planet, and there is only one way through which humanity can be saved. This booklet shows you what that way is. For a free copy, please go to eternalgod.org.
Standing Watch is a presentation by The Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.